Pray with me. May the words of my mouth and the meditations of all our hearts be acceptable in your sight, O God. You are our rock and our Redeemer. Amen. Many years ago, my family and I were members of a new church start, whose worship services were in a school cafeteria. Every Saturday evening or early Sunday morning, a small crew of dedicated people went to set up for worship. Everything that was needed for Sunday morning was strategically stored in a small trailer. Musical instruments, sound equipment, chairs, projector, and screen. There was also Sunday school materials, nursery and hospitality supplies, a Bible, a cross, communion plate and chalice, candles and lighters. Everything that a church thought they might need for worship was stored in boxes and placed in that trailer. This new church had dreams of one day having a building of their own. We didn't want an ornate or expensive building. We wanted something that was modest, simple, and plain. We wanted a sanctuary, a place to call our own where we could go to worship God together. But for a while, we made do with rented space. Every weekend, someone would hook the trailer to their truck, drive to the school cafeteria, unload all of the equipment, and transform that space into a wonderful place of worship. One Sunday, early in the morning, our ability to worship in that school cafeteria was threatened when, metaphorically, that temple came tumbling down. On that particular Sunday, when the setup crew arrived at the storage facility, they found that the trailer holding all of our possessions had been stolen. Some people were anxious. Some were angry. Others were devastated by the loss. How would we worship without our musical instruments? Without a sound system? Without chairs? What were we going to do? What would you do if this place of worship ceased to exist? In biblical times, Samaritans believed that the correct place to worship was on Mount Gerizim. Jews, on the other hand, thought that the Jerusalem temple was the proper place to worship. Jews thought that the temple was the only place where God would be present to them in worship. And if the temple were gone, then God would be absent. What would they do then? Where would they go? If life as they knew it changed, if their beloved temple disappeared, how would that affect their faith? In today's gospel lesson, Jesus tells the Samaritan woman that the time had come when true worship would occur neither on their treasured mountain or the Jews' cherished temple. God wants people who worship in spirit and truth. What does worship mean to you? I remember as a child, I wasn't crazy about going to church every week. I didn't like going to confession each week in the Roman Catholic Church. I didn't like having to wear a dress. I didn't like wearing a covering on my head, which was required at the time. I didn't like the music, the message, or the repetitive standing and kneeling, sitting and kneeling and standing. The one thing I did like was communion, even though that small dry wafer always stuck to the roof of my mouth. My understanding of worship was limited to that 1 hour service on Sunday morning. Years passed by before I came to realize that God wants us to worship every day, regardless of where we are. It's been said that we were created to worship God. Our entire lives are meant to be acts of worship. Worship is a celebration in which we get to participate. Worship is our response to a God who loves us and gives us life. Every Sunday, we are called out of the world as the Spirit gathers us as one body. We come to this place to remember, through our praise and thanksgiving, through music and song, all that God in Jesus Christ has done for us and continues to do for us. Every Sunday is a mini Easter celebration where we retell and relive the story of Christ's life, death, and resurrection. Each week we celebrate the gift of new and abundant life that God gives to us in this present life. We come to this place remembering who we are and to whom we belong. We come praying for all God's children. We are brought together to receive what we need, to go back out into the world to be God's witnesses of God's mysterious love as we bring hope, justice, and comfort to those in need. Worship unites us with the living God, and in return, we provide a living response. What we do here on Sunday morning is a way of preparing us to return to the world so that we can worship God with our very lives every day of the week. Although the Spirit gathers us each week to worship God on a specific day and a specific time, limiting our worship to that 1 hour is insufficient for a life that is meant to be worship-filled. In the book of Isaiah, God tells the people, I've had enough burnt offerings of rams and other beasts. I don't delight in the blood of bulls, lambs, or goats. Bringing your offerings is pointless. I hate your appointed festivals. They have become a burden to me. I am weary of them. When you stretch out your hands, I'll hide my eyes from you. Even though you make many prayers, I will not listen. This is what I want you to do. Learn to do good. Seek justice. Rescue the oppressed. Defend the orphan. And plead for the widow. Again, in the book of Amos, God said, I despise your festivals, and I take no delight in your solemn assemblies. Take away from me the noise of your songs. I will not listen to the melody of your harps. This is what I want you to do. Let justice roll down like waters, and righteousness like an ever-flowing stream. In both of these examples, God had become angry because the people's worship, their offerings, and their sacrifices were inconsistent with their actions and their behaviors. They would come together for worship, but then they would return back to their old ways of life. The Apostle Paul believed that the only holy and acceptable worship is offering ourselves as a living sacrifice. Paul insisted that real worship, that true worship, is when we offer ourselves to God, for God, every day of our lives. It's waking up each morning and saying, okay, God, here I am. I am yours. Body, mind, spirit, and soul. Do with me what you will. So what did we do that morning when all of our worship stuff was stolen? We worshiped anyway. We were reminded that we had gotten caught up in the things that aid our worship while forgetting the object of our worship. We were reminded what true worship really is. We were reminded that none of that stuff was necessary, that we could worship without any of it. In today's gospel reading, the woman at the well provides us with a great example of worshiping God in spirit and truth. This woman, who Jesus encountered at the well, was an outsider. While most of the women went to the well in the evening when it was cooler, she went to the well during the hottest time of the day. Maybe it was her attempt to avoid the other women who could be cruel and uncaring. By not giving this woman a name, the gospel writer is conveying to his audience that she is considered less than. She's a nobody. She has experienced the humiliation, emptiness, and pain that comes along with being an outsider. And she assumes that either no one has heard her desperate and lonely cries, or they simply don't care what has happened to her. Time and again, she has been turned away, ignored, and avoided by many, but not by Jesus. There is no one whom Jesus ignores, avoids, or turns away. He comes offering her the gift of God, living water that heals and restores a parched and thirsty soul. And in doing so, he chooses her, the one that the others deem less than, to be a witness to God's gift of salvation, healing, and hope. A dramatic transformation occurred in a short period of time. The story begins with Jesus talking to an outsider who becomes his witness. Jesus choosing a Samaritan, a woman, a nobody, and he welcomed her into the family of faith. Not only does she accept this living water that Jesus offers, she runs quickly into the city to tell her neighbors about it. And their souls must have been as parched and thirsty as hers, because they dropped what they were doing and they went looking for Jesus too. Pastor James Harnish writes, Christian worship is not about you or me. It's about our lives being transformed, filled with the Spirit of Christ, so that we become agents of Christ's love, joy, and peace in this world. We are sent into the world as men and women who are filled with the Spirit of God and empowered by the risen Christ to become people through whom God's kingdom comes and God's will gets done on earth as it is in heaven. Hear these words from a choir anthem. To worship rightly is to love each other. Each smile a hymn, each kind deed a prayer. Holy worship restores the lost, binds the broken spirit, and feeds the widow and orphan. Each loving life is a song of gratitude. Every day we are to worship. Every day we worship by living a life that honors and glorifies God. Every day we can worship God with music, with dancing, rejoicing, thanksgiving, and service. Worship that begins here in this place, but then it is carried out into the world as we love one another in the way that God loves us. Let us pray. Christ, our living hope, breathe your Spirit upon us. Reveal your presence in our lives and in our world. Guide us to live as children of hope and faith. Fill us with your love, that we may believe and continuously live the Easter miracle every day of our lives. Amen.